What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the LOI TV podcast. I am joined by Socko and Liam today. As you can see, lads, happy New Year, happy Christmas. How'd you get on over the festive period?
Great, not a bother at all. Yeah, good. How's things, lads?
Not too bad, yeah. Had a quiet Christmas and everything, but yeah, it's good. How'd you get on, Ross?
Yeah, no, as you said, quiet enough. It's a bit of a quiet one. Weird change of pace from usual years, but on the whole, it was all right. Like, yeah, it was not too bad. But the country in a bit of a bad way coming into the new year. We'll get on to how that's affecting the League of Ireland and stuff later on in the podcast and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bit of a rough time in the country at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of tough for everybody, but hopefully everyone just sticks to the rules, and we'll hopefully be at a League of Ireland game in no time. It's kind of hard to see that happening at the moment, but just have to keep pushing on, doing what we're told.
A bit worrying, but hopefully, you have to be a bit optimistic that we'll get back to a match soon, you know?
Yeah. Touching on, I suppose we'll jump straight in and talk about the LOI restart date, I suppose. What are you thinking? Do you think was it the late March, isn't it? Do you think that's realistic?
Yeah, so I think the original date was the end of Feb, and a few weeks ago they moved that to March 19th. So it's impossible to say, but the next few weeks will give us a better idea if that's a ideal starting date or not. But yeah, there was a few issues with the League of Ireland restart the last few weeks. The Irish Times today have said there's no sponsor yet for the league. Clubs haven't been told how much TV or streaming revenue they're due, so clubs are basically being kind of left in the dark.
How can they budget, like in terms of transfers and signings and stuff? Like, it's
financial
impossible.
Financial planning for next year. I suppose they're working off the basis that they're going to have no fans through the door next year. Obviously, we all know in the League of Ireland, like 80% fans are so important. 80% of the club's revenue comes from fans being in the ground. Tickets, merchandise, food. So that funding's badly needed. So the league's due to start on March 19th. Most clubs probably in pre-season at the moment or very, very soon. But yeah, it's still more questions than answers at the moment.
Is the sponsor, is that like Airtricity? Is that like the sponsor that they don't have, is it? So Airtricity isn't
no, I think Airtricity are on board, I think,
okay.
But like what do they call it, a flagship sponsor for the FAI.
Yeah.
And they have the FAI Cup. I think last year was called the Extra.ie Cup. So I'm not sure if they're continuing next year either.
Concerning, isn't it, in terms of that from a financial point of view for a lot of clubs? Like, because there's so much instability with clubs already as it is, like, and to have no league sponsor at this stage, what is it, only less than 2 months out, probably just around 2 months out, maybe.
Yeah,
because it's March 19th at the moment. When they're signing players, they can't sign them on a 52-week contract, so that's looking more like a 40-week contract. I think last season, most, if not all, the clubs availed of like the government wage subsidy scheme because they couldn't pay their players. But at the moment that ends in March, so there's still a lot of uncertainty there. Some clubs have said funding in the region of between 8 and 9 million euro is needed to complete this season coming. But it's impossible to know yet if like how much the FAI will get from the government. If a sponsor will come on board. What are we, 2 months? About 2 months out now. Like a lot of clubs have been left in the dark. Like it's a difficult time.
Is there a possibility that like a sponsor won't come on board? Is that like a genuine concern right now?
Possibly. It's hard to say. And you look at it from especially with the national men's team, you can kind of look at it and say who would want to sponsor, not so much the League of Ireland, but like the FAI brand at the moment.
Yeah, of course.
So much bad news at the moment. 3 pulled out of their sponsorship deal last summer. And kind of funnily enough, over the last Nations League games, many people would have seen 3s advertised and still around the Aviva Stadium and like on the bus and different sorts of things like that. And a lot of people thought that this was the FAI trying to attract new sponsors. And even though 3 weren't sponsors anymore, it's kind of like a your name here sign.
Yeah.
If someone looking at the Aviva Stadium sees the 3 logo everywhere, they might be attracted to make an offer. But like the FAI brand isn't the most appealing investment at the moment for a lot of companies, I'd say.
Just going back to the league sponsorship, would you say, like, in terms of the teams that aren't higher, like the bigger teams, let's say like the Bows and Shamrock Rovers, that it would affect them more so without like this league sponsorship and that money to a degree?
I don't think so. I think because you look at Finn Harps, I think they'd need it more than anyone nearly, because I think Shamrock Rovers and Bows would have bigger fan bases in terms of jerseys sold then, and they're doing like virtual tickets for games and stuff that obviously have maybe a higher capacity and things like that. I think they probably have more revenue streams than the likes of maybe a Finn Harps and a lot of like maybe the first division sides and stuff. So it's hard to judge in terms of like so Finn Harps' wage budget would be a lot lower than Shamrock Rovers is then. So it's hard to like kind of compare, I suppose. But no, I think it'll affect everyone. Do you think if the league doesn't get a sponsor, is there a possibility that it won't be able to be completed?
I'd imagine they'd want to complete. I say that's the last resort. I think they will hopefully complete the season, and maybe half a season like we saw last year. I think it was 18 games. But if there's limited funding, that's going to affect COVID testing. Clubs might have to raise funds on their own, like who was it last year? I think Cork and Sligo. And Finn Harps were like doing like raffles and kind of selling jerseys and stuff. But and there's no news yet about the Watch LOI, if that's going to be continuing next year or not.
That as well, actually.
It's a super initiative last year. We got to see a good few games. So it'd be nice if there was just a little bit more clarity from the FAI for fans and clubs to plan as best they can. I know like it's impossible to see where the next few weeks, if things are going to get worse or better, no one really knows, but just a bit more clarity from the FAI would be nice.
I think it all stems really from the FAI though. It doesn't sit well with me at all. Like FAI just really, you can just see that they don't really care about the LOI, unfortunately.
I think it's probably changed a little bit since the John Delaney days, a little bit more towards maybe having a concern, because I think the FAI is just genuinely in rag order. Like it's in no shape to like support anyone else. Like it has to sort itself out nearly first before trying to help other organizations and stuff. So I think you're right, Soccer, as well, about the like putting the brand beside the FAI in terms of even like Champagne football coming out. Obviously the FAI has probably reputation's ever been lower. What brand's going to want to, especially in like tough financial times for businesses already, what businesses going to want to take a risk and put their name beside the FAI as well? So I think that's a good point as well.
Yeah, I've heard the 3 sponsorship was worth between 8 and 9 million euro over 2015 to 2019, and 3 left then last summer. So that's huge funding, like badly needed at the FAI at the moment, like 70 million euro in the red. We all know the reasons, lots of the reasons why that's the case. We don't need to go into that again. But it's hard to sell the FAI at the moment, and that waters down to the League of Ireland as well. A lot of uncertainty at the moment. Like if you're the manager of like any Premier or First Division club at the moment, like you don't know how much money you're going to have to spend this year. You don't know how much money you have to go on a good pre-season training regime. It's really difficult to plan, and there's no fixture list at all yet as well. So a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and we start to see clubs maybe think outside the box in terms of trying to support themselves financially. We've seen Sligo linking up with Everton, making an agreement and affiliated or whatever. But I think we could probably see more clubs doing similar things like that. I think it's a good move from the club to do that. It presents a lot of opportunities. I presume there's opportunities for a lot of Everton young players to come on loan to Sligo. I'm not sure how Brexit might affect that a little bit, in terms of players maybe not being able to move across as freely as they'd like. But I think it's a great move in terms of financial thing for Sligo. Might be even able to get a few friendlies out of it and pack out the showgrounds and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely a positive. You could probably see more clubs moving in similar directions.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think Sligo have done very good business there, and the fact that like obviously they have a really good relationship, obviously, with Seamus Coleman, so that's kind of helped to push that deal along, I'd like to think. I also think Sligo are on the up, personally. I think they've made a few good signings, like Greg Bulger, Robbie McCourt, stuff like that, I think. And obviously they're back end to last season. They really pushed on from where they were before the restart.
Definitely. Coughlin will be a loss, of course. Ron Coughlin went to St. Pat's, but yeah, they have a good side, Sligo, and they'll be looking to maybe qualify for Europe again this season. But yeah, I think even I think Sligo's former manager Paul Cook was from Liverpool as well, so he might have a few connections. He might have had a word with a few people as well. So it's like Seamus Coleman and a few others. Yeah, it's just good to see that that agreement come in place. I think it will have a good impact on the club moving forward. But some of the transfers in the League of Ireland so far, touching on maybe Jack Byrne, that's probably the highlight one overall, leaving the league, going to Apoel in Cyprus. What did you think of that one, and how will it affect his chances of getting into the Ireland team?
I would have preferred to see him go to like Championship League One. I think he's made a rash decision on joining Mick McCarthy, and that's kind of severely blown back in his face now since Mick's got the sack. And I've seen actually recently that Jack Byrne and some other English fella, I don't know his name, they recently joined. They've been put on like their own, they're not even training with the squad at the moment because they've been deemed unfit or whatever. They're doing their own little 2-week training camp.
Yeah.
So it is a bit worrying, and there's obviously a lot of issues in that league with like money and players not getting paid and stuff like that. But I think Jack's a quality player, like, so hopefully he can work his way in, and it's just the fitness is the issue, but it is very worrying from the outside.
Yeah, the initial
might have asked as might have been like a stepping stone. He might do a year or two in at Apoel and then progress on to League One or the Championship. I don't think it'll affect his chances getting into the national squad too much. I think like if you're good enough, like Stephen Kenny will be keeping an eye on him. I would like to see him get more minutes last in the Nations League campaign. Like he didn't get too much time. But yeah, a little bit. It doesn't look great. Like Mick McCarthy getting sacked, I think it was the next day after his debut, and I don't think he's played since. Really, he's been unfit. But yeah, hopefully he can have a decent season.
Yeah, because it kind of came on the back of like the season ending. So he obviously like indulged over Christmas. You'd think like, so it kind of makes sense that he isn't fully at the ready and that he is probably taking a little bit of time to get ready. Like it's a lot of League of Ireland players are in pre-season at the moment, so it kind of makes sense as to why you wouldn't be ready just yet. But I think the Mick McCarthy sacking is a huge blow for him. I think that probably would be disappointing for him because that's probably, I'd say 80% of the reason, no, maybe not that, but 50% of the reason why he left. Obviously the sunshine and the money will have been nice factors as well. But I think Mick McCarthy definitely had a big part to play in him coming over. So he'll be disappointed with that. In terms of maybe, the stepping stone's interesting. I maybe would have liked to have seen it the other way around, nearly moving to England first and then when he's 29, 30, going to Cyprus potentially. But yeah, it's hard to know. Maybe it's an opportunity that only comes around once every now and again. So I suppose he'll have a nice life over there with the sun and everything. So it's nice move in terms of that, like quality of life.
I didn't know he had a kid.
Does he?
No, the son. Nice life with the son.
No.
Anyway, I digress.
I think the only because I think in terms of moving there, like in the League of Ireland, there's so many people, there's a lot of pressure on people saying that he should be in the side and stuff in the Ireland side. A lot of pressure on Stephen Kenny from that, and I think he might just be kind of like, if he kind of goes there and like you kind of just get forgotten about a little bit. I think maybe like you can kind of take your eye off him a little bit, and you can see that he wasn't really fully in Kenny's like plans before. Like he was in the squad, but then Jembury brought Daryl Horgan in as a replacement for somebody else and brought somebody else in as a replacement for someone else, and they both started ahead of him and stuff like that. So it's not like he was like on the verge of breaking in kind of thing, I suppose. So I could see maybe in a year's time him not making the squad at all. I think just in terms of, even if he's playing okay there, I feel like he has to be doing exceptionally well over there to be on people's minds, because it's such like a league that we just don't focus on. So I'm not sure about the move on a personal level, but I think hopefully we'll see him maybe in England or something in a year or two time maybe, but you never know how it's gonna play out. Obviously there's been a lot of activity in the League of Ireland at the moment. Shamrock Rovers have brought in a few lads from Dundalk, obviously Danny Mandroiu as well going to Shamrock Rovers. How are Shamrock Rovers looking? They're looking to obviously have to replace Jack Byrne. It's a huge huge blow for them that they will be without him next season. How do you think Shamrock Rovers will look next year?
I think, yeah, they're the team to beat, really. They've just
Yeah.
made really good signings. They kind of just, everywhere they kind of needed just a bit of competition or whatnot, they've kind of just brought in. And even though Danny Mandroiu wasn't playing last season, he's still a quality player. And you'd like to think like they're looking at it the same. Maybe if, like, obviously their manager brought Jack Byrne in, and he was at probably like the lowest in his career, as he said in his little speech on his Instagram and Twitter, that it was like the lowest he's ever played in football, and that he helped to get him back to his best. So you'd like to think he can replicate that with Danny.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably the idea behind it. And Andrew is still very young. I was a little bit like worried about how things went down last season. There was just so much rumors of off-field issues and stuff, and that's never ever a good sign with a young player. But maybe if Bradley can get into him, get his head down, there's no doubt in his ability. I don't think. I think everyone can see that even Bows fans can reluctantly see that he is top class. Like, and there's no doubt in that. But yeah, but I think it's a big shoes to fill. There will be pressure on him from the off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's going to be serious pressure from the off because of obviously he's moved from one side of Dublin to the other side of Dublin, and that off, as you said, that off the field stuff hopefully won't carry on this season if Stephen gets into him about it. And he's obviously around, like, they've coming off winning the league and everything, so they'll be it'll be a good camp, you know what I mean? And just didn't seem to work out for him coming near the end of his time at Bows. So hopefully he can push on and get into the starting regularly for the under-21s next season.
Definitely. Yeah. Moving on to the Irish setup. Obviously we've seen a bit of controversy there in the last couple of weeks with the whole Damien Duff, Alan Kelly, both leaving the setup. A little bit concerning.
Yeah, I think it was last Friday. Another late night FAI statement, which
they love that, don't they? They love those late night statements, trying to like stay out of the way. Like,
yeah, you're on Twitter at 11 o'clock. It's like, oh, Damien Duff's left the setup. But yeah, it was announced last Friday that Damien Duff decided to leave Stephen Kenny's coaching setup. There was no reason given in the statement. It was pretty much like Duff decided to walk away. Stephen Kenny thanks him for his time with the national team, blah, blah, blah. But like most newspapers were reporting that he was furious about the FAI's handling about the video. When I think 10 or 12 people were interviewed by Roy Barrett about the saga, if you want to call it, and Damien Duff like really defended Kenny and was pretty disgusted with the FAI's handling of the situation. Like, they put out that statement saying we're urgently looking into the matter, where the FAI rarely comment on off the field issues. So it didn't look great for Kenny at that stage, but the investigation happened and Kenny was cleared of any wrongdoing. But at the time, Duff threatened to resign if Kenny was made to apologise. Duff's known as like a really headstrong character, making not rash decisions, but like really important decisions. Like we saw in his career, like he left Chelsea in 2006 to go to Newcastle. Kind of decisions like that. He's very headstrong. He is, I think. But then a few days later, early December, Duff was on Champions League coverage with RTE, and he was asked about the video saga thing, and he kind of joked about it and said, we'll be staying away from any videos next March. That was 6 weeks ago. So from that, you can say he's definitely going to be there next March. So my question is, what has changed in the last few weeks for Damien Duff to make, if Kenny was cleared and Duff was happy about that, and Duff was talking about next March, what we're going to do next March, we'll be staying away from videos next March. My question is, what's changed in the last few weeks? Why is he left? Did something happen behind the scenes? Or and side note, we saw a few days later Alan Kelly, the goalkeeper coach, left as well, and there were reports in the Examiner that him and Duff clashed really badly about the video. Kelly's English himself. So yeah, my question is, why did Damien Duff wait 6 weeks to make the decision when 6 weeks ago he appeared happy about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I suppose there must have been something that happened in the 6 weeks. There must be something, because if he's preparing for March after the whole thing's kind of gone down, you have to believe that something's happened there. Especially
the
Alan
only
Kelly
thing
as well.
the only thing I can think of, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, Roy Barrett commented on the video thing and said, like, we're aware there's talk about the FAI's handling of it, and he said, I'm not denying that, but there was no apology really from Roy Barrett. When the World Cup draw was made as well, Kenny said that it's been dealt with, it's in the past, and like, we have to move on now, everything's okay. Kenny was totally cleared of any wrongdoing, and Roy Barrett said that Kenny has 100% of full support. So if Duff was happy with how things were early December, what's changed in the last 6 weeks? He's a big loss to Kenny in the setup. He was really popular among the players. And then the Alan Kelly thing a few days later, it's 2 big figures from your coach and staff leaving in 4 days. It's really, we keep saying it, but it's the last thing Stephen Kenny needs at the moment.
I was actually listening to Off the Ball there the other day, and they were interviewing Daryl Horgan, obviously talking about his time at Wickham, and it was mostly centered around the whole video. And he was just like, to be honest, I don't even remember half the video. And he was surprised. He was surprised that it actually got to the paper, because he just remembers the Ray Houghton goal, and that was it. Like, he was just like, I can't believe it, actually someone leaked that. And then they were like to him, do you know who leaked it? And he was just like, no one actually knows who ratted that out, like, you know what I mean? But it's very worrying times for Stephen at the moment, because, as you said, Damien Duff, and Daryl said himself, it was a big influence on that Ireland squad, and they all loved having him around and said he was a really good coach. And for him to just kind of leave is very worrying. And it's really strange times, because most of that FAI board is still there from John Delaney, and it's almost like they've kind of set Stephen up to fail at this point, like, because there's just always negative stuff coming out, and it's like they don't want an LOI man in charge or something. That's how it sits with me anyway. It's a bit worrying.
I'd agree, it doesn't kind of sit well with me at all. The FAI were very, very quick to put out a statement saying we're urgently looking into what was nothing more than a tabloid rag story. I mean, we did a video on it, and what was the headline? Like 1916 famine, like
Kenny must get sacked or something, wasn't it?
Kenny must get sacked, anti-English video to total rubbish. But another kind of concern.
So use it as a title of a video now, just to get the few views.
Another thing that really didn't make sense, that I don't know if you remember, we played England, Wales, and then Bulgaria back in Dublin. But Alan Kelly, after the Wales game, didn't travel back to Dublin, and he said, I'm staying at home, I have asthma, I'm concerned about COVID. Fair enough, like, no one's going to argue with that. But it's come out recently that he really, really didn't like the video. I think he was born in Preston himself. He's been with Ireland 35 years, but he really, really objected with the video, and him and Duff clashed ferociously over it. Alan Kelly's left like 4 days after Damien Duff. Like, what's changed in the last few weeks with Alan Kelly as well? He put out a statement saying he was. Most people were saying he was the guy who leaked it.
He was the guy, yeah.
There was reports coming out about it, and he put out a statement really, really rejecting any suggestion. But
he does seem like the most likely candidate, though, doesn't it? Like, when you're looking at everything that's come out, like,
yeah. So like,
he's probably the most likely.
I think in his statement a few days ago saying he was leaving, he said he was kind of concerned about COVID and stuff, but there's no suggestion to say things will be any better in March. So yeah, it's just more unwelcome news and a lot more questions than answers for me.
Yeah, no, definitely, without a doubt. And it's just another thing to add to the top of the list of things Kane's had to deal with in his reign so far. Like, it's been, I don't think Irish manager has ever had this much scrutiny and questions asked and like controversies around this initial year in charge. Like, hasn't been boring, we'll say that for the very least. But yeah, like, I don't know, he's had so much to put up with, and And yeah, it's just, yeah, I think there's a good point what Liam said about the FAI seem to have it out from nearly a little. There's elements of the FAI maybe that have it out from a little bit, just in terms of they don't want an LOI manager to succeed in the job. Nearly, it seems like kind of I don't know, it's a weird one. But yeah, I think looking towards the qualification for the World Cup, it's just, yeah, it's tough to know, like, because it's such a hard, like, we've had such a bad time leading into it. I'd love to have like another set of friendlies or something before it. Obviously to be very needless in terms of COVID and stuff, but in terms of actually like developing our style of play and just having some more time to kind of put right the bad results that we had, and maybe just have some positive news before we go into such important games. But I think we're going to be heading straight into those qualifiers. I think it's the first game Serbia away, so it's tough from the off. Like, but looking at some of the Irish players' club form at the moment, maybe touching on Captain Shane Duffy. For me, he doesn't start in the Irish team anymore.
Yeah, I'd have to agree personally, because like you have to, like, even watching Newcastle over the last few weeks, Kieran Clark for me starts ahead of Duffy at the moment. Like, he's having a shocker. I don't know what's happened to him. It is a bit worrying that our captain's gone on loan and gone to like probably a lower standard of football, let's say.
Definitely.
And he's capitulated, really, if you ask me. Like, just everything's going wrong. But
Yeah.
so is Celtic. Celtic are awful as well, so that's not helping him either.
He's had a tough time off the pitch, I think, as well. I think his father passed away last year and stuff. Like, he had a tough time off the pitch, so you have to take that into account. But in terms of his performances, he has been quite poor for Celtic on the whole. I think Celtic fans, I think there's talk of Celtic actually terminating the loan, which I think would nearly be a good thing. Just get him off to, I think, a championship clubs are interested and stuff. I think that would nearly be the best thing for him, just a fresh start somewhere else. I think maybe the championship might suit him a bit better in terms of, I think Celtic do try and play it out from the back. I don't think that does actually suit his style of play. I think he is more of a brute defender, old-fashioned brute defender, just stick his head and everything. But yeah, he has been concerning. I think the likes of, as you said, Kieran Clark, Dara O'Shea, who's starting a week in, week out in Premier League, John Egan, of course, as well. They're probably ahead of him in the pecking order right now.
Yeah, definitely. Like in recent years, like our centre back partnership and the goalkeeper is the one. Like 10 times out of 10, you're going to guess it right, because it's just like a constant. But the last while, Dara O'Shea in great form, John Egan in what's looking like the worst Premier League side, like in recent memory.
Is that a concern with him and Enda Stevens? Is that a bit of a concern for us?
Yeah, possibly. Like if they're still in the, I know they got their first win against Newcastle against Kieran Clark and Jeff Hendrick recently. But if that crap form continues, you can definitely see Kieran Clark and Dara O'Shea coming into that centre back fold.
Definitely. And as you said there, actually the goalkeeper is the one you bank on nearly. But is Kieran Kelleher starting to bang on the door a little bit?
I think so. Yeah.
There has to be questions, maybe. Probably not just yet, but
I'd say another year or so. I think. Yeah. I think he just needs to go on loan. Like, he's just like, he's not playing enough game time for me. Like, and Randolph's just so experienced. He's been there.
Randolph's proven that he doesn't need to be playing week in, week out to perform. Like, he's come in and done a job, whereas Kelleher hasn't really proven that as much, maybe on an international level where the pressure's really on. I think Randolph probably has that experience, as you said, especially for World Cup qualifiers. Maybe if it was like a friendly or a Nations League, you give Kelleher a go. But I think just with the World Cup, the weight of expectation, I think Randolph, with the experience he has to be still the number one.
So I think it was Kelleher just about to go on loan before Adrian got injured. And then Allison got injured, so we got a few games in the Champions League there and the Premier League.
Huge experience.
Super option to have off the bench if anything happens, God forbid, to Mandroiu as well. Though.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
To see Mark Travers going on loan as well. He absolutely needs game time.
Travers and Bazunu out on loan, which is good to see. I think they're both very, very promising goalkeepers. So I think I really like Bazunu. I think he's looking he's performing well at Rochdale, I think, in League One. So it's promising in terms of what we have between the sticks. Moving into midfield, James McLean.
I was going to say, hopefully they have a goalkeeper coach by next March. Go on, James McLean.
James McLean, obviously, we were talking about it in the group beforehand that he has been suspended by Stoke. Does anyone know how long he's been suspended for? Probably 2 weeks or something, is it? Or
I think they're due to play Blackburn this weekend, and he's suspended for that. I think there's what's it, an investigation or hearing planned soon. But yeah, to post videos on your Instagram story of you at the gym when the rules are you're not allowed to go to the gym is I'm not sure about that. So and I think he has deleted his Instagram too. So we'll see how that turns out the next week or two.
So stupid, like footballers. They surely have a gym in their own house, like, you know what I mean? They're paid.
A gym at the training ground as well. I suppose we still have the likes of Hendrick to look at as well. Does Hendrick get into the mix? Like, it's one of those where you're looking at maybe experience again, but he's been poor for Newcastle as well this season, really.
I think Jason Knight's really pushed on as well. He's doing well with Derby under Wayne Rooney. So I think Jason should be knocking on a door for a starting 11 in the campaign.
Good to see Malumbi getting out on loan as well, of course, with Preston, isn't it? I think he went to Preston. Yeah. That'll be good as well. So our future midfield with them too. I'm excited to see that in maybe 2-3 years' time. That could be really, really strong. But I think Jason Knight definitely knocking on the door to be starting in the World Cup qualifiers.
About Troy Parrott, he's out on loan with Millwall, and I've been keeping an eye on him. And he doesn't seem like he's hit the ground running at all, to be honest. He's getting minutes now after Christmas, but he just hasn't scored or anything. He just hasn't scored, hasn't assisted, and it's just a bit worrying for me.
Yeah, I felt bad for him because he did start off the season with a bad injury, and then he's coming in trying to break into the team in a tough league as well. As I say, he's very young, so you don't want to make too many. Like, I think Harry Kane went on loan to Millwall and had a bad loan spell and stuff like that. Like, so it's tough to judge him at such a young age. And there's a lot of hype around him and expectation around him. It must be difficult to kind of manage that. But hopefully next couple of months he does start to pick up a few goals and start to thrive at Millwall. But it is a tough league.
From now, the next, like, what are we, 2 months away from the first qualifier? I think there's 2 qualifiers in March, is there?
Yes, I think it's Serbia and one of the bottom seeds.
Serbia and Luxembourg, home, I think.
Luxembourg or something, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Hopefully, like, our forward players can get a good run of form going the next few weeks and kind of bring that coming into March. Hopefully, like I said, Ronan Curtis, Connolly, Ida can really kind of hit the ground running, good run of form, and set us up nicely for March. Because, like, I know there's other issues around it, but one goal in 2020 kind of wasn't great at all. Although it was pretty dismal. So we're going to need goals if we're going to hoping to beat the types of Serbia, which we need a result against.
Aaron Connolly got injured there recently as well, didn't he? I think he might have picked up a knock for Brighton. So I can't remember how long he's out for. I know Ida's out at the moment as well. So hopefully they can all be recovered in time. But knowing Kenny, he'll have no one available for the forward options.
Has Obafemi gone on loan, or is that still rumours?
There's talk of him going to Swansea. I don't think it's gone through. Swansea, I think, wasn't it? I don't think it's gone through just yet, but I think he needs that badly. He needs to get out. And play football. Because if he can hit the ground running in the Championship with someone like Swansea or something, like, he'll definitely be in the mix, in contention for a place in the squad 100%. I think we'll probably do a video on maybe predicted squad and maybe a predicted starting lineups for those games. Let me a little bit closer to the time. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you did enjoy the podcast. Touched on a few bits. So if you have any comments on anything we talked about throughout the video, let us know down in the comments below. Hope you did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on it down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks, Socko and Liam, for joining me.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Liam.
Appreciate it, lads. Thanks for watching. Catch you in a bit.
See you guys.